Hi, this is Dr. Don again. We're going to take a few minutes and walk through your Module 4 assignment on forecasting. Again, you start in your Canvas course. You can read the instructions there. You can download the Excel workbook there. Click on Start Here, and that'll take you into the depths of the assignment. It starts like the last one. You can click on Start Here again and then move through. There's some background there about this particular assignment. You can click on Get Started, and you can see that this one is about forecasting. Every manager has to forecast, and you don't have to be a manager. Sometimes your boss just wants you to do forecast, or you need to do some forecasting. So we're going to teach you some methods of doing forecasting. Again, you download the data file here and walk through step by step by step. We've got all the how-to videos that will tell you what to do, and you just go through following those things just like you did last time. Now let's jump over to the Excel. Here's the data we're going to use. It's the fast 2,000 gigabyte sales in the world, and we've got the data for 4 years back starting 2012. The first assignment is to create a scatter chart, a line chart, if you will, showing those actual sales, and then to add to that a trend line and the equation of the line, as well as R square, our goodness of fit. And then you're asked to comment on what that is, and is this a good value for your goodness of fit? The next step is we're going to create a forecast using that trend line equation. Pretty straightforward. Move this graph out of the way. There's a procedure there that we show you step by step by step how to calculate all the components of the forecast, and then we need to calculate our error metrics, and there's 4 error metrics we use, and I explain what those are in another video and how to calculate those. We will focus primarily on MAPE. That's a very common one. It's a nice one to use because it's a pure percentage that's pretty understandable. And then you finish up this particular task by creating, again, another line chart. The next step, we're going to move into one common form of forecasting for short range, and that's called a moving average. And in a moving average, what we do, we take, in this case, three prior months, 3 actual months, and then we average those to come up with a forecast for the next months. And then we just move that 3-month window down as we go, and we can build a forecast. Again, you will do the error metrics and create a chart. We do it again with a K of 9 months, and we create the same sort of forecast using those how-to videos, and we calculate the error metrics again and build a chart this time showing all 3, the actual, the K equal 3, and the K equal 9 on our chart. The next step, we go to something called exponential smoothing, a little more sophisticated, but pretty easy to do. And we have the video to show you how to do that. We do it twice, once with a smoothing coefficient of 0.3, and again with a smoothing coefficient, I think, of 0.9. Yes. And you will calculate the error metrics again using the procedure and create a graph. We then move into a little more complex forecasting. And this first one, we're going to do something called seasonality or season-only forecasting. When you look at your forecast, you can see that it has some peaks and valleys. Those can be called cycles, and in this course, we're going to refer to them as seasonality. You may also notice, though, that the actual values are trending upward. That's called the trend component. And in this case, we're going to just focus just on the seasonality at first. And we've got a step-by-step showing you how to do it. It looks fairly complex, but it's really not. Once you get the pattern, you'll see how you can move pretty quickly through that. You will, this time, we just want you to calculate the MAPE, because that's going to be our primary way we're going to evaluate these models. And when you can see here, our R square is pretty small. And that's because you can see in the graph down here, move that up so you can see it, see our forecast doesn't have that trend in there. So that's why we've got big gaps between the actual and the forecast. We'll correct that next by adding in the seasonality component. And the videos show you, again, step by step, how to do that. I want to show you a couple of things that can help you. There's a function in Excel called formula text, and you just start typing equal formula and then select formula text, and it wants you to give a reference cell, and that's just generally the cell just adjacent to it, but you can be anywhere. Here I put the formula text in this wide cell so you can see the formula, and it's referring to that cell to the left. Doing this lets you see and keep track of this formula. You can see it's quite long because we've got to build in all of these components over here, the coefficients, and multiply them through to get our forecast, and then we'll drag that down if you do it correctly using the absolute and relative references that we talked about in our earlier modules, and that gives you a MAPE that we can use. You should also look over here at the p-values for each of those components. Remember, something is statistically significant if its p-value is less than 0.05. Now here we've got 3 months that are not less than 0.05. So we're going to rerun this model without those 3 months to see if our R square gets better and if our MAPE gets better or worse. You might notice that some of these p-values are funky looking. They've got an e to the minus 26. That just tells you that Excel is using scientific notation because Excel doesn't have room to put all the zeros there. When it's an e to the minus 26, for example, it tells you to move the decimal place between 3.42, 26 places over here to the left, which means you got a lot of zeros. Those are very, very, very small values, so they're definitely statistically significant. We do this rerun, taking out those 3 months, and we can see our p-values are all now less than 5%, as you would expect. Our R squared doesn't change very much, a little bit better, but not much. And our MAPE doesn't really change that much either. It gets a little worse. So the best thing to do when you don't see an improvement is to go back and use this prior model as the one we want to use to finish up. And that's what I've done here. I've done my forecast ahead for a year and created a graph that shows the forecast going ahead. Finally, you want to summarize what you've done, and I like to create a table here of my MAPEs for all of the models that I've run, and then I can look at that and make some judgments. You know, which ones have the best MAPEs, and make some comments about that. You know, which model do you think you should use going forward? Finally, I just want to introduce you to the optional section. Excel has a neat tool called Forecast Sheet. It's up here under the Data, Analysis, What If, Forecast Sheet. There it is. And it's easy to do. The video shows you how to do it. It's a real quick way to include both seasonality and trend. It uses a form of exponential smoothing that includes that seasonality and trend. Pretty useful tool. Nice thing to be aware that's there to give you a quick, fairly reliable forecast. I hope you really enjoy this assignment. I think it's some useful tools to have in your tool belt. Again, most managers or many employees have to do forecasts. You even need to do it in your personal life sometimes to forecast your income and expenses. So you've got some tools there. I look forward to seeing you in the remainder of the course.